Hello, you're watching Shalom World News. I'm Donna Villa from Chicago, Illinois. Here are the latest headlines from around the world. A Catholic archbishop has warned that abductions from churches in Haiti are happening at a troubling rate. The situation described in the Caribbean nation is deeply troubling, with Archbishop Max Leroy Messidor providing a stark portrayal of the challenges faced by the Haitian people, particularly those within the church. The Archbishop's warning about the deteriorating security situation in Haiti, with gangs acting with impunity and even targeting churches for abductions, highlights the pervasive threat faced by civilians and religious figures alike. The recent large-scale attack on government buildings underscores the scale of the crisis, with armed groups challenging the authority of state institutions. Meanwhile, the Haitian province of the Congregation of the Brothers of the Sacred Heart announced on Monday, March 11, that 5 of the 7 people kidnapped just over 2 weeks ago in Port-au-Prince have been released by their kidnappers. The Vatican Secretary for Relations with States, Archbishop Paul Richard Gallagher, arrived in Jordan for a 4-day visit from March 11 through the 14th. King Abdullah II received the Archbishop at the Al Husseiniya Palace on Monday, the 11th. Archbishop Gallagher's visit is set against the backdrop of the 30th anniversary of the diplomatic ties between the Vatican and Jordan. During the visit, the Archbishop would celebrate Mass with the bishops of the Holy Land. The prelate commented on the Jordan's role in safeguarding holy sites in Jerusalem and expressed the Vatican's interest in providing aid to the Strip. Bishop Eduardo Hiiboro Kussala of South Sudan has raised a plea to the international community to extend urgent help to the people of South Sudan amid escalating hunger crisis in the country. In a letter addressed to the head of Caritas Network, People of Goodwill, and international community, the bishop described how his fellow citizens are facing life-threatening starvation in the wake of terrorist attacks and COVID-19. Bishop Kussala emphasized the suffering of the elderly, the disabled, women, and children, highlighting the urgent need for outside assistance to prevent further destruction. The number of internally displaced persons have reached alarmingly high rate, and numerous people live in deplorable conditions as South Sudanese economy has collapsed, according to the bishop. It may soon be illegal to own a copy of the pro-democracy publication Apple Daily in Hong Kong, as the city is considering the enforcement of a new national security law. 2 sessions spanning 16 hours were conducted over the weekend to expedite the passage of the measure that would implement Article 23 of the Basic Law in the Legislative Assembly. The proposed legislation would prohibit legal representation during the first 48 hours of custody and increase the maximum duration of police detention to 16 days. The government justified these actions as being crucial for national security. By bringing Hong Kong's rules in line with those of mainland China, opponents asserted that they further limited liberties. The NXT Women's Pro Golf Tour announced their revised eligibility criteria on International Women's Day, stating that only biological females and no transgenders would be permitted to participate in the competition. NXT Golf CEO Stuart McKinnon stated that it was crucial to uphold the competitive integrity, which is the cornerstone of women's sports. The decision was made after golfer Hailey Davidson, a man who identifies as female, won the NXT's Women's Classic in January, sparking controversy. Davidson, in the statement, claimed the change was a slap in the face to all female athletes and the decision would ban him from 3 competitions that he already signed up for. Meanwhile, 69% of Americans who took part in the June 2023 Gallup poll said that trans athletes should compete only against the athletes of the same biological sex, while 26% disagreed. Over 700 medical professionals in the United Kingdom urged members of parliament to lower the time limit for abortions by 2 weeks. Carolyn Ansell's amendment proposes to reduce the upper time limit from 24 to 22 weeks. The medical professionals, in a letter to all 650 MPs, have called on them to vote in favor of the amendment, which has been introduced by the Conservative MP for Eastbourne. A November 2023 research publication has revealed that many babies born at 22 and 23 weeks gestation can survive outside the womb. In 2020 and 2021, a total of 261 babies born during this period were later discharged from the hospital. The abortion time limit in the country is twice more than the other European countries. A UN-backed commission said nearly 30,000 children of militants and their supporters of various nationalities are suffering abuse in camps, prisons, and rehabilitation centers in Syria. The Independent International Commission of Inquiry on Syria said most of the children were brought by their parents to parts of Syria and Iraq after the extremists declared a caliphate in 2014. These children were brought to Syria and Iraq by their parents during the reign of the Islamic State. The report highlights the ongoing humanitarian crisis in northwest Syria. The commission urged countries to repatriate their citizens from Syria and integrate them into their societies. Commissioner Lynn Welchman stressed the urgency of addressing the situation, particularly for children who were minors during Islamic State rule and should not be held responsible for their parents' actions. The panel will present its report to the UN Human Rights Council on March 18. 3 central Italy-based Palestinians suspected of planning attacks, including suicide attacks, in an unspecified country were arrested by Italian police. In a statement released on Monday, March 11, the police said the 3 men had been charged with criminal conspiracy for terrorism purposes or subversion of the democratic order, which carries imprisonment up to 15 years. All 3 of them, living in L'Aquila, about 75 miles northeast of Rome, had been set up a cell linked to the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Brigades, an armed group connected to the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas Fatah movement, considered by Israel, the European Union, and the United States as a terrorist organization. Italian Interior Minister Matteo Piantedosi welcomed the arrest of the 3 dangerous terrorists and declared that extremism and radicalization would not be tolerated in Italy. In a momentous step towards promoting unity and religious diversity in Pakistan, a group of Christian leaders presented a copy of the Bible and a replica of the Cross of St. Thomas to the Supreme Court of Pakistan for curation in its museum. The King James Version of the Bible, commissioned in 1611, marks a crucial moment in Christianity's history, while the Cross of St. Thomas symbolizes the Apostles' missionary work in India, whose influence extends to Pakistan. Supreme Court Registrar Jazila Aslam emphasized the dedication of the apex courts in safeguarding minority rights. Bishop Marshall, president of the Church of Pakistan, praised the judiciary's efforts in upholding justice and equality for all citizens. At the same time, he also reminded the struggles Christians continue to face in the country despite constitutional guarantees. The parents of a Pakistani Christian girl who was kidnapped last month and forcibly converted to Islam fear she might be sold to sex traffickers. Reportedly, Laiba Suhail, a 10-year-old, was abducted from her home in Faisalabad district of Pakistan on February 12 by 4 non-Muslims at the command of Saukat Shah, a Muslim man with notorious record of forcibly converting children to Islam and coercing them to file court statements that they willingly converted. He then takes them from shelter homes, feigning to provide religious education. The child's father, Suhail Masi, said that the police has taken no action against Shah despite filed complaints. The Masi family stood helpless as Shah and police took his daughter to the shelter. The underprivileged family has yet to find an attorney to help them. The University of Notre Dame will present the 2024 Letari Medal to Claire Babinot-Fontenot, CEO of Feeding America. The honor is a recognition to her selfless commitment in rescuing the most vulnerable and providing food to those in need. Babinot-Fontenot has guided Feeding America through difficult times, including the pandemic, since she joined the organization in 2015. In 2023, under her leadership, Feeding America distributed 5.3 billion meals, making it the greatest philanthropic organization in the country. She stressed that ending food poverty in the United States is critical, particularly for kids. Babinot-Fontenot had been previously featured in Time and Forbes magazines. Previous prominent recipients of the Letari Medal include President John F. Kennedy and Dorothy Day. Last year's honoree was Sister Rosemary Connolly, former executive director of Misericordia here in Chicago. In the U.S. state of Colorado, the Catholic Charities of Denver invites all faithful to join Archbishop Samuel Aquila for the prayer to end abortion. The Archbishop of Denver will lead a Eucharistic procession around Planned Parenthood in Stapleton on March 23rd. The procession, which will begin at 10 a.m., will be followed by a benediction at the Marisol Garden across the street. St. Francis Cabrini Parish will host a Mass after the event. The state has become a battleground for pro-lifers as the state is trying to pass pro-abortion legislation. And those are your latest headlines. Do join us tomorrow. In the meantime, you can visit swnews.org for more updates. Shalom.